want. And I think it's wonderful. All right, you are live on YouTube. Susan Michelle, this mic is all yours.
Hi, this is Susan Michel. I am here in Western Massachusetts. It is great to be here as always. I am the author of Surrender to Joy, From Suicide to Serenity. I teach the transformational truth of A Course in Miracles, which we are all here to learn, to teach, to embody the knowledge of. And I am so grateful to be here. And I have my good friend and Course in Miracles soul sister in Boca Raton, Florida, Myrna Skoller. Myrna is the author of Private Lessons with Jesus, along with at least 6 other books. Private Lessons with Jesus is a great complement to A Course in Miracles workbook. How are you, Myrna?
I'm great. I am really great. I wake up in the morning in my right mind and I'm feeling good about that. That's what I care about. Yeah, ready to kind of just to face the world and just be as I am. And I've learned to do that. So it's a good thing. How
It's a
about you?
very it's a very, very good thing, Myrna. And Glorian is here as well. I am not, oh, I think
I'm
she's in
back.
the room. How
I'm
are
back.
you,
How are you?
Glorian?
Good, good, good. So glad to be here with both of you today. And I missed our little joining last week, although I have to say when you canceled, I was like, oh, I had something else to do. So it always works out perfectly, I guess. I'm really glad to be here.
Good. Yeah, I know. These meetings are just so inspiring and I look forward to them and thank you for being here with me. And then I see a few other faces in the room. So beautiful Zulma and Carrie and Elizabeth, and I'm sure there are other people that are not showing up on my screen, but if anyone wants to share, please just raise your hand and let us know because I love to hear shares from other Course in Miracles students slash teachers. We're all here to learn from each other. I can say when I embody this knowledge that I have learned from A Course in Miracles over the past 35 years, I feel the peace, love, joy, and happiness of God. And when I do not, I don't feel as good. But I am a student, and it's just so important to just keep myself plugged into my God socket, the God socket, as often as possible. I will start with the introduction of my book, Surrender to Joy. What I write is my passion is God. God is love and joy and beauty. He is all that is good in the world. Everything else is our own miscreation. When we are filled with joy, we are connected to God. When we are not joyful, we have lost our connection to all that is real. This is my message. It can be clarified with 3 simple words: surrender to joy. There is nothing to find. All we need to do is surrender. There is nothing to find in the world because there is no world. Our external world that we are experiencing is always a reflection of an inner condition. So if we keep ourselves focused on the truth of who we are, which is peace, love, joy, and happiness, that is what is going to be reflected back to us. And that is what we aim to do. A Course in Miracles tells us that everything is either love or a call to love. Everything is either love or fear. Um, and I guess for me, it is important to start each day with a Course in Miracles lesson. It's important to start each day with a meditation. I really get a lot out of meditating and focusing on the truth of what I am. Today is the 80th day of 2025. And today's lesson is a really good one, just as they all are. Let me recognize my problems have been solved. There is no problem. Sometimes our mind focuses on things that are wrong, but what we need to do is realize that God has our back. God is guiding us. God is directing us. I was listening to a reading this morning of the lesson by Tina Louise Spalding, the author of Jesus, My Autobiography. And when she was channeling Jesus, she basically recited a quote that had the same meaning as a quote from Albert Einstein. The problems cannot be solved at the same mindset that created them, because we have our like egoic, our fearful mind, and then we have our Holy Spirit, our God self, our holy self. And what creates the problems is the fear within us, but when we can just release our smaller self and step into the grandeur of our true self. Our true self knows that we are always safe at home with heaven, in heaven with God. We have no problems, right, Myrna?
I like that. Yes. I was also reading today's lesson as you were just talking about. Let me recognize my problems have been solved. And you said, either in love or in the egoic mind. So once you really envelop that concept that you can only be in two places, we can't be, we can only be in two places. And when I recognize and knowing that there are only two places to be, then I recognize that my problems have been solved. Because what is the other than love? It's fear. That's it. So now we have to look at the fearful aspect of things and recognize that every problem is attached to fear. And, that was a very hard thing for me to wrap my head around when I first heard that years ago. We consider that we have all kinds of emotions, and the emotions not related to love are simply not real. They're not real. And again, it's a matter of believing and trusting that God is with us in that respect. And like you say, I love that you say that your passion is God. What a passion to have, because when we for me, that passion has saved me from hours and days and weeks and years of unrest, of not knowing who I am, of worrying about what's going to happen tomorrow. And that recognition, when we can rely on the love that we are and the love of God. And I've tested it. I've tested the waters time and again, and always find that yeah, whatever the problem I think it is, if I recognize that, well, God tells me I only have one problem, let him handle it. And he always does. It always comes up with a solution. And we can tread so much more lightly when we start to, buy into that, so to speak. So I like that very much. If we could understand that our problems have been solved, we would never have a single moment's worry, fear, depression, anxiety, and that takes such a heavy toll on us. I think it takes a toll on our psyche, on our physical well-being. Again, just recognize that we're not alone. We're never alone. We're assured that time and again, but the ego would have us believe differently. So it's a matter of knowing that the ego has to be put aside. And when it starts to rear its head, the ego is like is the head of the snake, whereas the other part, the loving part of us, is the redeeming part that saves us from all the anxiety that we tend to bring on ourselves. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Myrna. Very well said. Thank you. Thank you. Glorian.
Yeah, I love what you both are sharing. And when I was listening to you, Myrna, that's really the trust, the acceptance of what we are in truth, and just resting there is the trust. And when you were speaking about Susan saying it's her passion, I mean, what else would we want to do but be devoted and dedicated to the service of the Christ, to be our authentic self, our as we were created, our natural state of being. So when we go back to today's lesson and yesterday's lesson, there's only one problem, and the problem's already been solved. That recognition that we are already home. And all we have to do is accept our divinity as the solution, which is the trust, which is like you were saying, Susan, which, relinquishes that littleness and accepts the magnitude of the Christ that I am. And every single seeming problem that we think we have, which is actually a grievance, which is the identifying with the body or the false self, it's all eradicated in the acceptance and the realization of the oneness that I am. So it's really quite beautiful. And I know myself too. I'm there with you, Susan, every single day. I wake up, I do my little identifying with the Christ before I even get out of bed. I and the Father are one. I'm one self united with my Creator. Where should I go? What should I do? What should I say? And to whom? And then I begin my day with the lesson and meditation and some infinite way material. And to me, hours can go by, but when you're in that natural state, it's like no time passed at all because there is no time. So, and what else would we really want to do other than to begin our day with that remembrance and that acceptance of what I am? Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you both. Yeah, it's just beautiful, beautiful thoughts. I mean, it's so important, as Myrna pointed out, to be able to rest in God. I noticed that about myself. Sometimes I find myself worrying about how I'm going to do something. I just started on with a new marketing company, and there's a lot of technology involved, and technology has never been my forte. I tend to really stress out about it. And then there's the Susan that's oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? I'm not technologically savvy. But then in when I connect to my higher self, my true self, I say, it's I'll take one step at a time. If I need to know something, I will find the answers. As our good friend Sherry says, it's all good. It's all coming together. It always does. And that's kind of what I did. I took one step at a time. There's like 5 apps that I had to use for this one particular marketing company, but I called another colleague who helped me work my way through it, and I did it. I mean, could I have done it without my colleague from the same company? Probably not, but I think she was appointed by God. I mean, we all have helpers, we all have support, we're all angels for each other. And whenever I can just, I guess stay calm, and that's a key word that both Myrna and Glorian brought up: trust. Whenever I can stay calm and trust in this power that I'm a part of, everything always works out the way it's meant to work out. What's the acronym for trust? To rely upon spirit totally. God is the ocean, we are all waves, but we're all connected to that same ocean. When you get deep into any one of us, A Course in Miracles is telling us we're all the same on the inside. We all express ourselves differently in this worldly classroom, but we're all connected at the core to that same force of unconditional love. And when we can really tap into it and remember the truth of who we are at peace. And it's always there, but again, to remember, I have the ego that's frantic, that's stressing, that's always trying to prove that I'm good enough, that's my ego. And then I have my higher self that has nothing to prove. My higher self comes from a place of abundance. My higher self knows that everything that I need is within me. This is what A Course in Miracles tells us our true self is. Our true self knows that we have everything that we need within ourselves. We really don't need anything from the world, and when we're coming from a place of abundance, we go into the world, and the only thing we want to do is share our love with our brother. We don't want to get anything from our brother. That's egoic consciousness. That's coming from a place of lack. When I forget who I am, I think I need things from the word to complete me. I need validation. I need love. I need to be perfect all the time to prove that I'm good enough. That's ego, but that's not when I'm plugged into my God socket. That's not when I'm connected to the truth of who I am. When I'm connected to the truth of who I am at peace. And it's not about getting, it's simply about being. It's about connecting to presence. It's about it's about remembering the truth of who I am. And it's about calm. I think God is very calm, and we're all created in the image of our creator. So if God is calm and I'm created in God's image, that must mean the truth of who I am is calm as well. And that's just such a empowering, state to reside in. As Myrna complimented me on the first words of my little paragraph there, my passion is God. God is my passion. There are like so many things in the world. I mean, that I enjoy. I enjoy a Tito's dirty vodka martini. That's like, I enjoy that. I've been working for Tito's lately. I enjoy cookies and cream ice cream. I enjoy that. I enjoy a Netflix series, younger. So there's things in the world that I enjoy, but those things of the world are nothing compared to being connected to God. God is my passion. Connecting to God is just indescribably glorious. Right, Myrna?
Yes, yes. It's like you say, that passion, and that passion just comes with time, I think. For me, and I can only speak for myself, I'm not one who likes to go to doctors. Talk about trusting and whatnot. I just never did. I was always remiss. Everybody would say to me, you just, you're so careless. I mean, I would always get comments about that. Never like to go to the doctors. And I don't take any medications or anything. So about a year ago, my boyfriend, Pat, started to bug me to go to a doctor. You should go to a doctor. You should get checked out. You should go to a doctor. Pat just happened to start, revving up my engine about that. So I said, okay. So I made an appointment. As it turned out, I found out I needed a heart valve replacement. I never would have known about it had I not gone to the doctor. So if Pat hadn't come along to tell me to go to the doctor, to tell me that I need a heart valve replacement, I wouldn't have known. Talk about trusting God. So my first reaction is ridiculous. I don't need a heart valve replacement. It's not necessary. I mean, that's so like me to react that way. So I asked Jesus, as I do with everything I do. I asked Jesus, what should I do? Do I need a heart valve replacement or not? And the answer he said was, the answer will come to you. Then it started happening, whereas, I'm playing Mahjong and somebody at the Mahjong group says, you know what? My husband just had a heart valve replacement and he went to a great doctor, a wonderful doctor. So I'm saying, okay, well, maybe that's the answer from the universe. And then I started coming up against that. People were coming up and it just, at random telling me they had the kind of operation that I need without my even asking. So to me, that was Jesus answering that I should go for a heart valve replacement. And I did go. And yesterday now, I go to, and doctors like you to, they want you to take medicines. They want you to go for blood tests. They want you to do these things. That's what doctors do. Um, and so now the doctor's telling me that I should have a pacemaker. Well, I don't know if I want to go for a pacemaker. Do I really want a pacemaker? No, I really don't. So now I check Google and because I have an arrhythmia. And according to Google, the answer, what I found out, the information I got was that not all arrhythmias require a pacemaker. So that kind of gave me something to now sit on for a while. And I'm going to sit on my hands because I know that the answer will come to me. And either I do or I don't. And it's that relaxation, that not knowing that I rely so much on for me it's Jesus, but it's all the same, whether it's Jesus, whether it's spirit, whether it's God. It's there, it's all the same thing. The connection that I have very strongly is one with Jesus, so I talk to him a lot. You know that I divulge that a lot to you, so I just wanted to share that. For me, the answers do come. Thanks.
Glorian?
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing that, Myrna. And what I was hearing when you were speaking is that, we see whatever's in our mind, and it'll be revealed to you what you should do, just as you were seeing, when you needed to have the procedure for the heart. It comes to us. And I think that the recognition that everything that we seemingly see outside of us is a projection of our mind. So if we have something on our mind, we see it. And, when God is in our mind, we see those reflections of love's presence everywhere. We just have to be alert to it and just recognizing that it's all perfect, it's all in divine order. And everything that seemingly is happening to us is there to bring us into the greater awareness of ourself, which is our salvation. I am the Father of one. Um, I like when you were sharing before, Susan, and thinking about things and trying to plan them. And then it's coming to that place where we recognize that I really can't think my way out of it. And even if I'm trying to think or control it, what am I really trying to do? Make a better illusion for myself, an illusion that's going to preserve that full sense of identity, the ego? And the answer is always in the resting in what I am. And that's really the solution to any problem, which is the acceptance of myself as God created me, spirit in a state of grace forever, that nothing has ever can change or can have any effect upon that. It's our permanent natural state of being, that infinite, invisible presence that I am. So that's what was coming to me when you both were speaking. And I think maybe, Susan, you mentioned something about getting. And I think once we get to that place where we recognize that in seeming like we need to get, we know we're aligned with the ego, but immediately when desire or any kind of lack seems to come up or scarcity seems to present itself to us, just moving into that space of I have, and that divine presence that I am, the grace of God as I was created, just being willing to still the mind for even a moment, to bring ourselves into that presence, which wipes out the other. When we're in presence, we're experiencing ourselves as that spirit of God. There's nothing else other than that. So it comes down to that an idea of just practice, 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 and then it becomes the habit. where we just, oh, okay, I'm in the wrong mind. The only solution to this problem is accepting the divinity of what I am and that I am within this. And we find that through the still mind. And it was funny. It was coming to me also, like we were talking in the other group about Reiki, and all things work for good, and all things. Jesus tells us that all beliefs that lead to progress should be honored because it's all working for our good. It's all showing us what I think, so that I can make another choice. But once we recognize that we are in divine presence, whether it's Reiki or whatever, we're here just to be an instrument and a vehicle for that spirit of God in the world. So we don't have to direct God. We don't have to send God out because omnipresence is everywhere. And that spirit of God in omniscient being knows all that needs to be known. So we really need do nothing except move into the grace and trust in that spirit of what I am, which is the presence of God here now. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you both. Thank you, Myrna, and thank you, Glorian. Yeah, reflecting back on Myrna's story, I love that story. You have a question, you ask Jesus for guidance and answers, and he gives them to you. He always gives us answers. And Myrna, you kind of met people in life that were talking to you about something that you needed to know. I do believe that's how Christ answers us. He answers us through people. He answers us through situations. We're all angels for each other. Um, I always say the three ways to connect to Christ consciousness when we are feeling off center in any way is acceptance, accepting everything in our life exactly as it is, gratitude, being grateful for everything that we have, and forgiveness, forgiving our brother and ourselves for any perceived errors. Um, and and then as I spoke about before, I spoke about how the ego comes from a place of lack and always wants to get something from the world because the ego feels like it's not enough. The Holy Spirit only wants to give to the world and extend God's love to the world because the Holy Spirit, our higher self, knows that we have everything that we need within. And it's so interesting how that works because, again, I'm a work in progress. This world is a classroom. Sometimes I connect to Christ consciousness. Other times I'm in the egoic consciousness and I'm not feeling as good. But we can always just pray to God and reconnect with God at each and every moment. I mean, it's also, the law of attraction is an interesting topic because on one hand, we're always creating what we're focusing on, but then a lot of Course in Miracles students are saying, well, the law of attraction is not so important because we can't find our happiness in the world anyway. That's an interesting topic. I'm not sure how I feel about that, but I do know I believe in the law of attraction because we're always creating our own reality. And the funny thing is, when I'm in an egoic consciousness and I'm trying to create something in the world, but I'm coming from a place of neediness or I'm coming from a place of desperation, no matter how much I want something from the world, I'm not going to be able to create that because I'm not aligned with that energetic vibration. So to clarify that, let's say I feel like I don't have enough money. I feel like I don't have the right job. And then I start praying to God, I want that job. I want that job. I want $10,000. I want $10,000. Now, God can't actually give me the money I want or give me the job I want, because my vibrational frequency is not at that level. When I'm coming from a place of lack or desperation, I'm not going to attract to me something that I want, because that thing that I want is at a different vibrational frequency. So that's why when you're desperately praying to God for something, you're not going to get it if you're coming from egoic consciousness, if you're coming from fear. God can't give you, the Bible says, whatever ye shall ask for in prayer, believing, ye shall receive. But in order to receive it, you have to believe it. Okay, so the ego really doesn't get what he wants because the ego is desperate. However, when you're coming from a place of abundance, when you're coming from the truth of who you are, and you pray for something of the world, but you actually believe that you deserve it, then yes, God does answer your prayer because you're believing in what you're praying for. So when we're praying from a place of abundance, we're vibrating at a higher frequency. And when we vibrate at a higher frequency, God can actually give us what we want. Then it goes even deeper than that, because, when I am on a higher vibrational level, I'm praying for something of the world. Most of the time that thing comes to me because I'm at that vibrational frequency, but that thing that comes to me is not the thing that's going to make me happy anyway. Because in that sense, the gifts of the world don't really mean anything, because the only thing that can really make me happy is my connection with God. So it's that energetic frequency of abundance that is going to give me the peace that my soul is craving. Here again, when Myrna was talking, when Glorian was talking, I love this paragraph. Now, this is in the preface, and what it states the world we see merely reflects our own internal frame of reference, the dominant ideas, wishes, and emotions in our minds. Projection makes perception. We look inside first, decide the kind of world we want to see, and then project that world outside, making it the truth as we see it. We make it true by our own interpretations of what it is we are seeing. If we are using perception to justify our own mistakes, our anger, our impulses to attack, our lack of love in whatever form it may take, we will see a world of evil, destruction, malice, envy, and despair. All this we must learn to forgive, not because we are being good and charitable, but because what we are seeing is not true. We have distorted the world by our twisted defenses and are therefore seeing what is not there. As we learn to recognize our perceptual errors, we also learn to look past them or forgive. At the same time, we are forgiving ourselves, looking past our distorted self-concepts to the self that God created in us and as us. So we're always creating our own experience in life. We're always creating our own, our own worlds, our own perception, our own, the internal, what we see in the external world are reflections of an internal condition. But if we're not seeing what's making us happy because we're hanging on to guilt in any way, all we need to do is forgive. And that's our pass into heaven. What do you think, Myrna?
Yeah, I like when you use, when you say forgiveness, forgiveness, the course relies so heavily on the forgiving aspect of who we are, the forgiveness that that we have to really look at until we can really feel the peace that we so badly want. We all want peace, but we don't feel it. We think it's because we have no control over that, but we do. And again, here we are understanding that that forgiveness is the key. I learned that when I first picked up the Course in Miracles some 35 years ago. I had a lot of grievances, and those grievances were really manifesting into forms of depression, anxiety, guilt, hate, whatever. There were just so many different emotions that I thought were different, but they're really all the same. They all come from fear. So the forgiveness is a way of now letting go of any grievance, because that's what keeps us tied to a world of insanity. It's just insanity, because then it sort of just turns into turmoil, and everything inside of it. There are no answers. Nothing makes any sense. So the way the first step that I started taking after picking up the Course in Miracles is the understanding that I needed to forgive. I needed to forgive. And not only did I need to forgive other people, I needed to forgive myself for feeling guilty for not liking the other people that I wasn't forgiving. So, there was a lot of work to do. And it took a lot of practice and a lot of dedication to the fact that I needed to understand my purpose as well. What is my purpose? So, it took me time to figure that out, which I finally did figure that out. Because here I said, I was asking Jesus for the answer as to whether or not I should have a certain surgical procedure, and the answers came to me from other people. Well, isn't that my purpose as well, to sort of give answers to other people as well? And we don't even realize how much good we do in the world when we come up with answers for them as well, just by whatever it is, if it's coming from a place of love. I think and that is my purpose, because there's so much we give to the world by having that and letting it just become a part of the understanding that we have to love, and then that's something else again. We want to understand what love is, and it all comes together, and all, it's all defined for us when we realize that forgiveness is the utmost importance.
Gloria?
Wow, wow, wow. Immense importation coming through here today. Myrna, I love what you shared there. And I always love when you speak about joining with Jesus. And we recognize that when we join with Jesus, we're joining with the one mind that we share. And, talking also about the goal is that we connect and we move into that oneness of what I am. But recognizing the atonement process, which is what we go through here, which is our ideas of sin and guilt, that we're willing to look at them, the judgments and grievances, and let them go. So it's the undoing of fear through the atonement process that leads us back to what we are in truth, our natural state. And, when we were talking here about forgiving, and, forgiving to me is not forgiveness to destroy, but forgiveness recognizing that I'm willing not to judge something. Because if I'm seeing something that needs forgiveness, it's a projection of my own unresolved guilt and fear that I am putting out there, where Jesus tells us projection makes perception. It's a mirror, not a fact. So when I see something outside myself that I need to forgive, I recognize that this is coming from me, my own unresolved guilt, my own stuff that I have to take into the atonement process and look at and be willing to let go of. And I'll tell you a story. When my teacher transitioned to spirit, she sent me a dream. And in the dream, there were these two blank artist canvases. On one, it said, I love you. On the other one was just a blank canvas. So I'm like, what was she trying to say to me here? And I took that into contemplation. And what she was saying is when we're not judging, the mind is blank. So then we're giving everything all the meaning that it has for us. So once we take responsibility for sight, in recognizing maybe not the intricate details of what we seemingly see, but everything showing us what we think. And in responsibility for sight, is merely the one remaining freedom that I have in this world to make another choice about it. So I'm responsible for what I see. I'm responsible for my response to what the projection of my own fear and guilt is showing me, which is to meet the call for love with love. Um, so that's what was coming through for me on that. And when you were talking about attraction, and, once we recognize with that law of attraction that it is a projection of my own unresolved fear that I'm seeing, or if my mind's aligned with the Christ mind, I'll witness the reflections of love's presence that are there. So it's always coming from me. And to me, that's just so empowering because I can recognize then what Jesus tells us, the power of decision is your own. And he has there at the end, choose once again. So after we read the entire book, at the last chapter, he tells us, choose once again. And it's just so liberating. To me, it's just so liberating. And, owning it too, owning the projections and recognizing that, if I see it, I own it. What is it showing me? Is this worth me giving up the kingdom of God? Is what I'm holding on to here worth it to me to give up everything? So what do I want? Nothing? Or do I want everything? Going back to what you said, the littleness or the magnitude. Thank you.
Thanks, Gloria, and thanks, Myrna. Yeah, so many thoughts came to mind. I guess starting with what I heard from Myrna, what is love? I mean, that's just the presence of who we are. When we're connected to love, we are in our right mind. And that's how the Course in Miracles starts out here in the introduction, which is very interesting. In the middle of the introduction, Jesus states the Course does not aim at teaching the meaning of love, for that is beyond what can be taught. So, what does Jesus mean by that? I mean, that is the essence of who we are. When we get deep down into the essence of each and every one of us, we all have love at our core. So, even words can't describe love because love is who we are. And when we're connected to the truth of ourself, our mind is at peace, And then here in the introduction, the next sentence says, the Course, it does aim, however, at removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, which is your natural inheritance. So our natural inheritance is love. When we are extending God's love to our brother, we are in our right mind. That is how we were created. We were created in God's image, and God is unconditional love. So when I am loving you, when I am loving myself, then I am in the right mind. Then I feel the truth of who I am. I feel the peace of God. Again, A Course in Miracles is telling us that we need to identify the blocks so we can release the blocks. And then my favorite paragraph, one of my favorite paragraphs, talks about darkness. The escape from darkness involves two stages. First, the recognition that darkness cannot hide. This step entails fear. Second, the recognition that there is nothing you want to hide, even if you could. This step brings escape from fear. When you have become willing to hide nothing, you will not only be willing to enter into communion, but will also understand peace and joy. So we need to allow our darkness to come up so we can release it and reconnect with the truth of who we are. At least that's been my path in this lifetime. I was listening to a podcast earlier today by Gabor Mate, his name is. And what he is, he's a trauma specialist, he's a psychologist, and I find what he speaks about to be very informative and very insightful. What he was saying today when I was listening to his video was that there are so many spiritual speakers that deny their darkness, they deny their trauma. And it's so important to integrate the two. You know, it's so important to be honest about the fact that we all, most of us still have wounds from our past that do need to come up and do need to be healed, you know. But then once we can be honest about the darkness, you know, when we are triggered in life, and give our pain over to God, give our pain over to the Holy Spirit, we can connect to the love, the truth of who we are. But the light is on the other side of the darkness. So what Gabor Mate talks about is being honest. You know, many Course in Miracles students use that term spiritual bypassing. You don't want to spiritually bypass, you know, the darkness that's in your unconscious mind. You don't want to pretend like the wounds aren't there, that the wounds don't exist. But when we are triggered in life, it's important to acknowledge the darkness, but only so we can release the darkness and reconnect with the essence of love. So it's just so interesting because again, there are only, A Course in Miracles is very clear. There are only two emotions, love and fear. Now, the fear is an illusion, the love is real. So the truth of who I am is love. When I am loving, I am in my right mind. But in order to, I believe we were born here to learn certain lessons, and we have these hidden pain points. We were born into this world, you know, in this earthly classroom, in order to release these hidden pain points and reconnect to the truth of who we are. I believe that's how enlightenment is reached. I mean, I think even Jesus and Buddha and all the great, you know, spiritual teachers had to go through their darkness before they were able to reach the light, reach that state of enlightenment, which is the truth of who we are. Thoughts, Myrna?
Yeah. You come into the world with complete amnesia. So, you know, you don't really know. Even Jesus, even Buddha, even the great saints or these sages that, you know, that have come into the world to heal the world, don't, you know, I don't think they really know it right away. I mean, in other words, they recognize that sometimes you have a calling, and that calling just comes, you know, nags at you, and you sort of, you know, gear yourself in the direction as to what you know, you came here for. So, you know, when you think about it that way, it's attaining the understanding that there is something you need to learn, lessons that we need to learn. And as far as the darkness goes, I found that what I do now is share everything with Jesus. I hide nothing, because if we hide it, if we run away from it, if we're ashamed of it, um, then we're not opening ourselves up to the help that we have to want it. We have to beckon to it in order for it to find us and give us the truth that we so desperately want. And truth is the Course in Miracles speaks about that too. You know, let me be still and listen to the truth. the truth is, who I am, the love that I was created is created in truth. And once we see that, then we're not afraid of anything really, and we're not afraid to share our darkness. And that's the only way that we can bring it to the light, is to hand it over, share it. I might have done something that I was ashamed of, years ago. Of course, it's not truthful. My ego projected that feeling, because that's what the ego does. But to me, it was something that needed to be hidden, and it was an embarrassment, or whatever it was. Okay, so now I have no embarrassment whatsoever. If I have, no matter what comes to mind that is not of God, then I'll share it and let Him kind of, mold it and make it something good. And then it comes back to me, purified. And the Course in Miracles, again, you use the word purified. We need to purify before we can be accepting of all that we are. And to purify is to just let go of the the unholy essence that seems to be part of who we are. I mean, we are human. We are part of that, but we're also part of something much greater. And that is the part that I want to be connected to all the time. And when the other part kind of starts gnawing at me, I see it, I know it. And, I'll say an affirmation, I'll say a prayer, I'll go la, 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 la. I don't want to hear it, and I go into a different frame of mind. And then I forget, I forget exactly what it was that was plaguing me in an hour before, so it does take perseverance, a desire, a great desire to have that love within us, and to know it, to want it, to feel it, to be it, and then to extend it. Thank you.
Gloria?
Thank you both. When we were talking about what is love, and, it's really beyond description. It's just an experience. It's beyond words and thoughts, and love and grace and joy synonymous. And that's what creation is, love. And we're extensions of that love of God. So it's like we can't think about it and put a label on it. It's an experience of our natural state of being. And when you were speaking about purification, Myrna, it was funny because that's what was coming to me also, that miracles are everyone's right, but purification is necessary first. And what is the miracle but the shift from the fear to the love of what I am? And purification can't be done by the ego. Spirit purifies, because the ego is the fear and guilt that keeps us separate from that love. So it's not going to get us out of it, although we use everything. And, it was coming to me also. What is not love is murder. And what is it murder of? The reality of our being, our natural state of being. So we want to remove those blocks to love's presence, the ideas of sin and guilt, the judgments and the grievances that we hold. And we can escape from the world we see by giving up the attack thoughts, these fearful thoughts of the ego that we project upon it, which is murder, which is the murder and the attack on God, the murder of what I am. And, when we were talking about the ego and the denial, Susan, and all that, for me personally, I use everything because it's a gift offering me back, showing me what I think, showing me where I'm making a mistake so that mistake can gently be corrected. It's not a sin, it's not anything to be condemned about, but it's a mistaken belief where I can make that correction. And that's what all mistakes are, not sins. It's just a faulty thought system that just needs correction. So once we recognize that, we use the ego to get out of the ego, recognizing that if we are in denial, it's going to present itself again because it's a projection of our own resolved thoughts. It's everything showing me what I think. So, you know, the idea is for me is to be gentle, gentle with myself, recognizing it as a mistake, not condemning, not, overanalyzing or gently looking with the loving eyes of Christ and but then still being vigilant for God and the kingdom, recognizing that I don't want to say, well, make excuses for myself that this is why and da 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 da. Yeah, maybe that is why, but ultimately my salvation will only come if I change my mind about that and change my mind about who I am. Thanks.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the universe is always teaching us what we need to learn for healing purposes. And if the same situations, the same type of situations keep coming up in our lives, it's because there is some kind of healing that our soul is craving. I got a call from a friend of mine this morning who was relaying to me a situation that happened to her at work where she felt disrespected. And she chose, because of the disrespect she was feeling, to leave that particular job. And then she said, and the same thing happened in my last job. And I started thinking about that because I think that happens to all of us, because I know I had a situation at work also where I felt disrespected and I chose to leave the job. So I mean, basically, the universe is provoking something in our unconscious mind that needs to be healed. And sometimes we find ourselves in similar situations, time and time again. But I also believe once we can take responsibility for those feelings and step into those feelings, that's where our healing lies. And we all have different situations that trigger us, but it's about taking responsibility for the situations, owning the feelings, owning the pain, whatever that pain might be, and know that our joy is on the other side of it, because it's as A Course in Miracles says, it's important to be clear about what it is within our psyche that is still dark, but the truth of who we are is perfect happiness. God's will for me is perfect happiness. Right, Myrna?
What you're saying, I mean, it's absolutely everything you say. If we lived by those rules, then what else would there be to worry about? Just living by that, by understanding, like you say, sometimes, you leave a job. I mean, I've done that too, leaving a job. And I think about it too. When years later, I think about it and understand that it really wasn't necessary for me to leave a specific job. I'd done that. Well, I don't even want to go into it. We don't have enough time, but looking back, recognizing from where I was then to the state of mind that I am today, understanding the mistake that I made. So there you go. It's the ego again. The ego telling you that that they're not treating you the way you should be treated, and we tend to take steps thinking that just to leave when it may not always be necessary. Not in all cases, but you reminded me of a job that I had, and I kind of reacted the same way. So
Yeah, we all have our lessons. Everything in life is a lesson or a
it's a lesson.
blessing.
Right,
Blessings
lesson
are
of
fun and the
blessing.
lessons we learn from. But I love you, Myrna. I love you, Glorian. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I'm looking at the time. It is now exactly 2 p.m. So, as A Course in Miracles says, nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. The only thing that's real is the love. Thank you, Glorian. Thank you, Myrna. And I will now return the microphone to Lynn.
Thank you so much. Wonderful sharing, wonderful afternoon, and God bless you. Have a great weekend, and we will see you Monday.